us here? Hey. How's everybody doing? Good? Having a good time? Single walking around, taking a break for an hour? Yeah, okay. We're laughing because we're all looking at each other, go, so who's running this panel? And we're all looking at each other like, is it somebody that's going to be, I don't know. He might be in charge, I don't know.
And we've decided you're running it. How about that?
Yeah, so this is the Batman Day panel that has Harley Quinn taking it over as well, so we have some Harley Quinn people. We're going to go down the line and introduce ourselves and what we're doing. So, John.
Okay, my name is John Teams. I'm now working on Harley Quinn, of the art of Harley Quinn with Jimmy and Amanda. And yes.
That's it.
Peter Tomasi, not working on anything Batman related at the moment, except as James was kind to point out that I do have Damian Wayne and Super Sons, and I do seem to have some appearances lately of Batman in the books, and I did a thing called Batman and Robin for about 30 years, so. That's about it.
I'm James Tynion IV. I'm the writer of Detective Comics, and I also wrote the Batman Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles crossover, the sequel of which is coming out in December, and a bunch of other comic books with Batman in it. So, happy Batman Day.
I'm Jimmy Palmiotti. I co-write Harley Quinn with my wife next to me, and I'm also writing a Jetsons miniseries that is bizarre, coming out soon in November. And
I'm Amanda Connor. I co-write Harley Quinn with Jimmy here, and I also do the covers. And occasionally I do a Jetsons cover or 6 for Jimmy, and some, when people ask me to draw stuff, I go, when I have time, I go, yeah, I think I can fit that in, sure. Yeah. Nice to meet you all.
So we don't have a presentation of these great screens. If anybody wants to stand in front of them and look, vogue a little bit, that's great. Little Batman pose, but this is what, the third Batman Day, or is it the third Batman Day. So if we were not here, right, we would be probably at our local retailers and doing signings and getting giveaways, which I was like hoping they would have for this panel, right? But I don't know, nothing's organized.
Here we go.
Yeah, I've got a program here if anybody wants it.
Who here is challenging themselves and trying to get to the convention and to a Batman Day store signing?
I've done.
You done it already?
Yeah, you did it? All right.
Did you get any free stuff? Did you bring stuff for everybody?
Oh, look at that. Oh my God, that's awesome.
The trash anyway.
Oh, you, okay, all right.
Oh, very cool.
So we'll wear these.
I can get one.
Yeah.
Since we're husband and wife, this might come in handy for...
No judgment.
I'm Batman. Okay, let's move this down to the other end of the table.
So I guess, anybody, I think probably the best way to maybe go into this is get your question, because you're reading, I guess, the books, so we don't have to tell you, hey, how did you like that issue you just read? And we can't, there's DC sharpshooters all around, so we never can really talk about what's coming up, aside from give you a general broad stroke or something. So maybe we should just open it up to you guys asking any crazy-ass questions you feel like asking.
Anything.
Anything.
All right.
I have a question for James. You may have talked about this in other interviews, but probably the most surprising thing to come out of your Detective Comics run is having Clayface on the team. It seems like such a bizarre thing to even imagine. Like, what made you decide to do that?
Honestly, Clayface has been one of the biggest surprises in writing Detective Comics because it started out as being a kind of practical decision, because a lot of building a team book, you want characters who have different abilities, who can kind of do different things, and I was building a team, and the majority of the team were they were Batman characters. They were sort of street level ninja style characters who all had that like rough ability set. And so in talking to my editors, they were like, we need a wild card on the team. And on top of that, you also want someone who's got an interesting silhouette, who kind of like would be interesting on the cover. And it was just like, so it's just like, there was a half second where we were talking about maybe Man-Bat on the team, but then I kind of centered on Clayface. And the thing about that was incredible in Clayface is, like he's a really funny character to write, but he's also really sad in a way that's very human to me. Because he's someone whose life got out of control and who, kind of everyone decided he was a monster and he allowed himself to become a monster. But Batman's also someone who has had a very bad day and had to build himself into something new. And because of that, he believes that there's like that Clayface doesn't have to be that. And the heart of that relationship has really given me so many incredible stories. And like there's a big storyline after the upcoming Return of Tim Drake, which starts this Wednesday, which is called The Lonely Place of Living. But after that is a big arc called Fall of the Batman that Clayface is very central to. And I'm finally going to get around to telling the full like rebirth in continuity origin of this Clayface, because I definitely picked and chose like the best iconic pieces of Clayface to build my Clayface, and I'm really excited for people to see that story.
Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead. Yes.
So outside of the original Batman the Animated Series, my favorite Harley is the one that they had in Gotham City Sirens, because they really made her really complex. She dealt a lot with her feelings with Joker and how she's kind of abused, but she's still kind of addicted to him, because by the end of that series she goes back to him. How do you guys see Harley as you're writing Harley? What drives her and what motivates her?
The way we've handled Harley is she's slightly in the future. Our Harley right now is slightly in the future from what goes on in the regular, the continuous, the Suicide Squad, the regular DC continuity. And she's one of those things, she still, is torn about the Joker, but she's trying to pull away from him because she realizes that he's really toxic for her. And it's one of those things that I'm sure there are many people here who have had rotten relationships, but you still have a hard time getting over them. That's what's going on with Harley. So she's trying really hard to just be around people that are good for her and get rid of the relationships that are bad for her, but she still feels sort of magnetized towards, she likes the bad boys. So yeah, that's sort of how we handle Harley, and how she struggles with it all the time. So.
And when we started the book, we decided that if the book's going to be called Harley Quinn, bringing the Joker all the time is just going to be leaning on other characters. Again, that's why we took Harley out of Gotham, because she was a secondary character there. No matter how big the character became, it would have just been another character in Gotham. So we felt we had to take her out, get her start her own life, restart her a little bit, get her own supporting cast that worked with her, that dealt with her insanity on a daily basis, and then build a character there. We were able to revisit Joker once or twice, but if we made it all about the Joker, it just would have been, then we should have called it Harley and Joker, which we kind of did in the backups with Paul Dini and I did, and again, that was set in the past. But our goal was to take a character and make her stand on her own and not be dependent on other characters. And I think after 4 years, I think it finally, it's kicked in, and that's that. But, once in a while we have people going, I like the old Harley, and I'm like, yeah, you can find that everywhere else too. It's one of those characters, if you like different kinds of Harley, that it's pretty much the games are good, Injustice is a great comic, and then Suicide Squad. So it's all over the map, but for us, we see it as it's a little bit past everything in the future, and she stepped back and became her own woman. Yeah, right.
So, Harley Quinn has really made a big pop culture pop. I mean, she's gotten to the point where she's in Hot Topics, and people who may not even read comics or aren't as familiar with her are still attracted to that character. What do you think it is about that character that's allowed it to actually climb up the echelon from like a little cartoon character that wasn't even a book to the phenomenon that the character is nowadays?
Yeah, I mean, you know, Bruce Timm and Paul Dini created a great character, right? And it appealed to a certain amount of people. And I just think it's one of the few characters in comics that can actually change her costumes, that can change her look constantly, and people still identify her. And I think it just comes down to attitude, the idea that she's impulsive, she does what she wants when she wants to do it. And whether she's being good or bad, it's still she takes the responsibility of what she's doing. So I think a lot of people see her as a wish fulfillment character and unpredictable. And I can honestly say when you read Harley as a character, there is no predictable part of the book. Even when we write it, we tend to go off in crazy directions, and you can't do that with every character. You can't just throw caution to the wind and go nuts. And there's something about her. I think you have some ideas.
No, I mean, that's what you said. She has a look that, like, no matter how many different types of costumes that she wears, they always have that look, and it's really, really graphic and eye-catching, and it's recognizable for miles, you know? You know, it's always that red and black, or that red and blue, and the diamonds and the stars. It's like, it's so Harley. And I think it's just, she's just graphically pleasing and instantly recognizable. And I think a lot of the people that don't recognize her from the comics sometimes recognize her from the games, and now they recognize her from the movie and everything. And yeah, she has that appeal, and I think it is the attitude.
I also think DC was overdue to have another female character. And
Yeah.
Wonder Woman, you know, we love Wonder Woman, but she's kind of perfect. You know, she's an Amazon. Harley is complete opposite. And it's probably the most fun we have is when we put Wonder Woman and Harley together, because they are nothing like each other. And yet they kind of can get along. So, I mean, anybody, John, what do you think? I mean,
No, I agree with everything. I think.
I love John. He agrees with everything.
Yeah, and especially that she's very human. I mean, make mistakes every time and try to get out of all the mess that generates the situations she's into. But as Amanda said, the graphic part is really nice. I mean, as a character to draw is just perfect.
Yeah, I'm not off topic, but it seemed like relationship between Harley Quinn and Batman would be kind of cool.
Yeah, she thinks what Bruce Wayne is a better
Well,
kisser.
yeah, that happens in the Valentine's Day special. She kisses Bruce Wayne, and she's like, wow, and then she kisses Batman, and she's like, you know, you could take a few lessons from your pal Bruce. So yeah, she in our book, she doesn't have the hatred for Batman as much as she does like earlier in her life. She still doesn't like him, because she sees him as a villain. Like, she's the guy who makes, you know, her and friends of hers miserable. So she sees him as a bad guy, you know, and she sees herself and her friends as good guys. And but she doesn't, you know, I'm sure like in the future, you know, they'll have another tiff, but she doesn't have trust for him, and she doesn't, you know, have a lot of love for him, but she still finds him interesting, you know. So yeah, it's like we try and complicate it up a little bit. It makes for really fun reading.
I got a question. There's a couple of Harleys in the audience. Any Harleys? Who would you rather kiss, Batman or Bruce Wayne? Any Harleys? Anybody know what I mean? Maybe fist? Who wants to punch Bruce Wayne or punch Batman? All right, you both. You kiss him in the punch. All right, that's very Harley of you. That's great. Right there.
I know beforehand there was a Harley Quinn Power Girl team up. Is there a possibility for another one of those in the future? Because that was amazing.
Yes. When Jimmy and I used to work on Power Girl together with Justin Gray, and we love that character so much that we just enjoy putting her with Harley Quinn, because Power Girl is such a good straight man to Harley's like goofiness. You know? So. And it's fun to make, you know, people who are very serious, and, you know, Power Girl's not that serious, but she tries to be, you know, she's always trying to live up to the Superman legacy, but she can't always quite do it. And when you pair her with Harley Quinn, it's just fun. You know, it's a lot of fun because they're so unalike. You know, like her and Wonder Woman, they're so not alike, and there's always a lot of eye rolling. You know, like Power Girl is the ultimate eye roller.
I have a question on the panel with you, especially you two guys. Who if you could team up Batman with a character, like that would be fun to write, who would you think would be the one you guys would go towards?
I got to play with this very briefly earlier in the year, but Batman and Zatanna play off of each other incredibly well. And getting to kind of like put back some like backstory between the two of them when Bruce was training and all of that. Like, I love the dynamic between those two characters, and I want to write that relationship a lot more.
You should.
Just picture Batman's Zatanna book.
Yeah, no, I would like. I may have had a few conversations after after that.
How about you, Pete?
Batman and the Haunted Tank, I guess.
The Haunted Tank? It's such a Pete answer. It has to be a tank.
That's doable.
Yeah, it is doable. Yeah.
You can totally do that.
It's tough. I guess having Batman and Jonah Hex.
Batman Jonah Hex? Sure. A little time
I
travel.
like to do time travel stuff.
Oh, that's kind of cool. That's cool. Who do you want to draw, Johnny?
Batman and who? Who would you like to do?
Well, I know it's
Be crazy.
probably no, but probably too easy. But I really like Harley and Batman.
Harley and Batman together?
Yeah. To facing someone probably forced by something that she needs to face.
Right.
I don't know.
That's cool.
Maybe something from outer space or whatever.
Yeah, that's good. Good. Look at Harley right there. Yes.
Right, always
That's actually my name.
Oh, is it? Your name's Harley too? Is that very convenient?
I like how you guys have made Harley Quinn more of an anti-hero instead of a villain. She's probably my favorite version of Harley Quinn. What is all of your guys' favorite version of Harley Quinn? Because there's so many.
Yeah, we're all alive. Yeah.
The animated show for me, probably, and then, because that was the first one, I think that was the one that just kind of imprinted right on my head, you know, my brain, that was the one that kind of hit me first.
I've loved all of the incarnations of Harley, and it plays off of so many different aspects of the character. I really enjoyed, and I'm totally gonna forget who worked on this. It was the first Harley ongoing series that I picked up every issue, but Carl.
Was it
Carl
Terry
Kiesel and Terry Dodson.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah.
And I thought they did an incredible job. And yeah, that I used to pick that up like every month when I was, just when I would have been like out in the audience with you guys. So yeah, that run meant a lot to me.
What about you, John?
Well, I really love the Harley.
The current?
Yes,
Yeah?
the current one.
It's a good answer, John. It's very good.
But I still love the cartoon one, the first one.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
absolutely. That's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
That's cool. You see how the Harley's taking over the Batman Day panel?
Just like Batman did.
All right.
Back there? Oh, you? Yeah.
What was your favorite Harley episode of Batman the Animated Series?
The first Harley and Ivy episode. I think that episode more than anything else defined who Harley Quinn was as a standalone character, and is probably the reason that the character is lived on.
Which episode was that? What happened in that episode? Because
It
I've
was-
seen them, but I haven't seen them in like chronological order.
Oh God, I think it was the one where they're,
Shopping.
yeah, the
The Christmas where they kidnapped Bruce Wayne?
Yeah, I think,
I love
is that the first one?
Yeah.
It's like that lipstick that Blue Ivy put on.
Right.
And he can't resist. I think that's the one. I
Yeah.
love that one.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah. That's it. I love the comic book version of that one too. It's just so cute. I can't stand it.
I have a question for Pete. I really enjoyed your Batman and Robin run, and I just wanted to ask, when you were approaching the silent issue with Damien's death,
Right.
that was really powerful. And I just wanted to ask, how you and Pat approached that
Right.
topic.
The question is, how did I approach the writing with Pat, drawing on the Batman and Robin Requiem issue? I knew I wanted to do a silent issue at some point in my career, so to speak. So that seemed like the perfect one to sort of encapsulate all the grief that Bruce was going through. And I felt like that was the time to do a wordless story. And the only thing that when you're a writer and you wanted to take on a silent story, you better damn well have a good artist to pull it off. And I knew Pat would be able to really, pull off all the small details and all the emotional beats. And so we talked about it, but then I wrote it as silence. The script was no dialogue, and I really just had to think there's an old thing Hitchcock said that if you turn the volume down on all his movies, you don't need to hear anybody talk. You can actually watch the films and understand exactly everybody's motivations and everything that's going on. And I sort of took that approach in my head when I was writing the script to say, what visuals would be able to just get across all the grief and not need a word of it. And that's really the way I approached it. And then Pat just obviously, brought it to life his own in the middle of the play. So, but it was a lot of fun to do it. It's been many cons now have come and gone where just a lot of people breaking down, still crying about that issue. So it's nice to have touched a lot of people that way.
Hey, so having seen Suicide Squad, I noticed they went a different way with Harley and Joker's relationship. I was wondering, how did you feel about the relationship? Did they ruin it by going the whole romance, or what do you prefer?
I felt they should have asked us to make the movie. It would have made more sense when they got to the top of the building and she said, all right, now call and chopper to get us out of here. The relation, it was interesting, the movie seemed like it was setting up a bigger story, and then it looked like halfway through the movie it went a different way. I felt the movie was entertaining, but their story was not clear to me. And I'm hoping the second one, they kind of grab onto it a little bit. There was a lot I like. I mean, we love what Margot Robbie did. She was a great Harley Quinn. You can't deny that. If she was in the movie, 80% more, it would have been even better. That said, it just, the relationship they established was an odd one. And then, the whole helicopter scene, was odd, and then she's disappointed by him. I just think, they needed a villain for the movie, and they threw in the Joker, but I'm not so sure. And they threw in, obviously, the one that makes toasters fly through the air. What was that character? We've read the Ghostbusters woman. Look, I enjoyed the movie, but I was like, what is going on here? Am I the only one, though? No, right? There were so many great things in the movie. It was, Will Smith was awesome in the movie. There were so many great characters, but they thought, maybe they should have called us all. Especially this group up here, we would have tweaked it. But that said, I'm hoping that, Sirens, maybe in that movie, they kind of explore it another way. Or I would love if they kind of built the character up without the Joker so much for a movie. Yeah. Let's see who she is, let's get where she's from, and then let it go from there. It seems that dependency, it's sort of like in the beginning, Batman movies had to have the Joker. And then I just feel like we got to get to know who she is first before we start going into that stuff. That's my opinion. I don't know.
Right. Yeah, no, it makes sense. It makes sense because you don't want the character that you're trying to build up to depend on their characterization by depending on another character.
Right.
I guess. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
What would you guys have done? I mean, differently. You've seen the movie? You've both seen the movie?
Yeah.
We get this hand grenade and throw it over here now.
I think it was too big for the first film. I thought another world-ending third act was something that should have been avoided for a movie about Suicide Squad. Being a guy who loves war movies and historical, mission movies like that, I thought it needed to be more of a lean, mean sort of.
Yeah, that would have been better.
That
Like
would've
if
been
they
the first
didn't
one.
have to, yeah, why does it always have to be like the supernatural world-ending stuff? Why
Another,
can't it
another
just
building in the middle of the city,
Yeah.
another
Yeah.
focal point of some energy, things crazy.
Yeah,
things.
yeah, they could have just gotten down and dirty with some characters that were totally human and
Yeah.
they were just,
Yeah.
horrible.
Yeah.
You know, yeah.
Yeah, just make one person escape and then send the rest of the Suicide Squad after them. I mean,
Yeah.
it would have been a great movie.
Yeah.
A big chase movie. But
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah. One day. one day they'll ask our opinion. Until then, we'll just keep making comics.
To say, over the years, it seems like Batman's gotten a lot darker and more violent than a lot of representation. Batman and Superman, he was a straight up killer. What are your opinions on that? Do you think Batman's going to go in a darker direction than what we see of him?
I mean, there's a reason why in my detective comics there's probably more Batman hugging people than any other
It's a good title.
Batman run.
It's a good title. Batman hugging is a good title.
I don't know, because the thing is that at the end of the day, this is like, Batman's there to protect people. He's there because he cares about people and he cares about preventing what happened to him happening to anyone else, and that requires a lot of compassion. And I can't write a Bruce Wayne who doesn't have a lot of compassion. I think sometimes he's bad at expressing the compassion. I think but I think that's part of what makes him an interesting character because he wants to, and that's part of the core thread of the series. And the other thing that I was really happy to see is that in addition to the darker tone in some of the live action movies, this year also brought us the Lego Batman movie, which was an insanely fun celebration of the entire history of Batman in a way that feels very of the moment and is a story, is a very core Batman story. I walked out of that movie being surprised at how much they got right, even though it was a kind of ridiculous comedy. It was, so it's I'm happy that we live in a world where we can get a bit of both.
Oh, wait. Yep.
So, with Rebirth recently revealing that there are 3 Jokers, how do you think Harley would react to that?
Get a lot of sleep first.
There was, she did, in one of the books, she did come across a fake Joker, and she handled it very Harley-ish. She had actually met him earlier in one of the pre-Rebirth books, and she tried to get him help, and he didn't go in the direction that she thought he should go in. So yeah, he's no longer around. So that's
Yeah, I think if she found out there were 3 Jokers, she'd be glad that she's living in Coney Island, Brooklyn. I don't think she'd want to have anything to do with any of them.
I don't know. I think she would go after him. To find out, to find out who's the real one.
Is there like a nice the 3? Because I don't really follow it. Is it the 3
Yeah,
all horrible?
There hasn't been much done on it.
Oh, it's not like a happy one and a sad one, and because that would be funny. Good question. You up front, bro?
I have 2 questions, if that's okay.
Yeah.
So one goes back to Harley's relationship with Batman, with the new movie that came out, Harley Quinn and Batman. It seems to be different than resenting him, if anything, when you work with him after the initial fight with Nightwing.
The animated movie you saw? Yeah. We didn't see it.
We didn't see it, believe it or not.
Yeah.
You know what? It was they had it in San Diego, and that was the night that we had to do something else. Else we would have gone to see it, and we haven't watched it on TV yet.
We have no light.
We don't have light.
All we do is work.
So, by the way, I love your robe here.
Oh, it's actually inspired by Jason Todd.
Really?
Oh, that's great.
Awesome.
And
Oh, there
That's
you go.
great.
I'm not looking at the rest of it.
my second question is about Brendan's analogs with how it was in New 52. What made you guys switch Starfire and Arsenal to Artemis and Bizarro?
I can't speak to exactly how that happened, but I know that part of the decisions along those lines were they wanted to like in going to the rebirth essence of the Teen Titans team, they wanted to bring Starfire back into the Teen Titans brand, and going back and recreating the Titans as a brand, they wanted to bring Roy Harper back into that classic mold and those relationships that they were building. So it was really how do you build a new thing? And for how the decision was made for Artemis and Bizarro, you'd have to ask the writer of the book, but like that is, as someone who briefly wrote Red Hood and the Outlaws, I do love the relationship between Jason, Corey, and Roy. And Jason in particular is a character I very much want to get back to writing at some point.
Have it right here. Where you like?